Hi! Welcome to this part of my review featuring Runecairn, Wardensaga. If you haven't seen the other parts of my review, featuring this Dark Souls Nordic Saga inspired role-playing game that you can play as a one-on-one experience, or with a group, or as a solo experience, please check out the playlist in the description below. This time we are going to talk about combat and magic. Let's start with combat. When it comes to combat rounds, each round is comprised of turns, roughly 10 seconds of in-game time. During your actions, you can move up to 40 feet, cast a spell, attack, or move again, or other reasonable action. You declare actions before rolling dice. If risky, the Warden or Game Master calls for a save. All actions, attacks, and movements occur simultaneously. Concerning reactions, adventurers can react to an enemy attack and attempt to either block, deflect, avoid, or otherwise mitigate damage. Some reactions are only available through key items or relics. All adventurers have two standard reactions. Roll, which is make a dex save to roll away from an enemy's attack, avoiding all damage. This causes fatigue, obviously a staple of Dark Souls games. Then there is withdraw. You make a dexterity save to disengage from combat and retreat, avoiding all damage. Failing the save means you escape, but you still take damage from the attack. Concerning turns, the Warden telegraphs the actions taken by non-player characters or monsters. If surprised at the start of combat, the adventurer makes a dexterity save to act before their opponents. Failing this save also means adventurers can't use a reaction in their first turn. When it comes to attacking and damage, attacks lower resilience but damage is reduced by defense. You roll your weapon die and subtract defense. You deal the remaining to the target's resilience. Magic bypasses mundane armor, but not magical armor. Unarmed attacks always do 1d4 of damage. When it comes to attack modifiers, there is damage advantage. Attacks from a position of strength, for example against a helpless foe or through a daring maneuver, in this case you roll damage twice and take the higher result. Then there is damage disadvantage. This comes from attacks from a position of weakness, through cover or with bound hands. You roll for damage twice and take the lower result. Certain skills or items can also grant damage advantage or disadvantage. If multiple attackers target the same foe, you roll all damage dice and keep the single highest result, a damage advantage in other words. Concerning dual and two-handed weapons, if attacking with two weapons at the same time or one weapon held in both hands, you gain damage advantage. Then there is Dire Strike. Some weapons or enemies have special abilities that are triggered when rolling max damage, such as rolling 10 on a d10. The Warden can also decide the effect of a Dire Strike. When it comes to blast attacks, they affect all targets in the area, rolling separately for each affected target. Blast refers to anything from explosions to huge, cleaving onslaughts to the impact of a meteorite. When it comes to ability score loss, if any of an adventurer's ability scores are reduced to 0, they die. Ability loss is reset when resting at a bonfire or by certain magic or items. Concerning critical damage, once a target reaches 0 resilience, any additional damage reduces strength directly and triggers a critical damage save. The target must roll under strength to avoid critical damage. This includes adventurers, non-player characters, and monsters. Any target that fails a critical damage save dies. Upon death, adventurers wake up at the last bonfire rested at. They keep all inventory items but drop unspent souls at the location of their death, of course. Resurrected adventurers can retrieve these dropped souls if they reach this location without dying again. Dropped souls are permanently lost at death if not retrieved. Concerning omens, these are messages from spirits, the gods, or the land and can represent fortune or favor. When an attack reduces an adventurer's resilience to exactly 0, this triggers an omen. You roll a d8 on the omen's table to determine the event and outcome. Perhaps a spirit appears to you in the form of an animal. You make a spirit save. If you pass, the animal accompanies you until dawn of the next day. Perhaps a ghostly figure emerges from the wilderness and shrieks before fading away. You make a strength save. If you fail, you lose most of your hearing until the next day. Or maybe a lank hooded man in a wide-brimmed hat appears on the horizon, beckoning you forward. You make a spirit save. If you fail, you follow the hooded man into a trap. Before we move on to magic, I want to mention that this rulebook contains an entire combat example, that is, an entire combat sequence, to clarify things. So, when it comes to magic, magic is a remnant of the gods and draws attention when used. Some see magic as proof the gods live on in the new world. Concerning runestones, they are smooth and delicately polished stones with an inscribed spell hand etched in runes. These are used by seers to affect magical change in the world. When it comes to sagas, they are not a physical object, but a learned and memorized tale passed down from the gods. Skalds can recite sagas to channel the power of the gods through speech. And there are flame runes. These are words of power inscribed on fire grippers that allow pyres to shape and control flame. Runestones and sagas contain a single spell and take up one slot. They cannot be transcribed or created. Instead, they are recovered from places like tombs, dungeons, and ruins. Fire grippers can only store one flame rune at a time, and they are exceedingly rare. Scrolls are similar to runestones and sagas, however, they do not take up inventory slots, they do not cause fatigue, and they disappear after one use. Let's talk about casting spells. Seers cast spells by holding a runestone in one hand and a staff in the other. They read the spell from the runestone and focus the magic through the staff. Skalds cast spells by holding a runic focus and speaking the saga aloud. Pyres cast spells by channeling fire through their grippers. Casting all types of magic takes a toll. After every spell, add a fatigue to inventory, occupying one slot. Given time and safety, you can enhance a spell, for example affecting multiple targets, increasing its power, etc., without any additional cost. If deprived or in danger, the warden may require you to make either a wit save or spirit save, depending on the spellcaster, to avoid any ill effects from casting. Consequences of failure are on par with the intended effect, and may result in added fatigue, the destruction of the runestone, the saga slipping from your memory, injury, or death. Only spells that cause fatigue are subject to ill effects. Let's talk about relics. Items imbued with a magical spell or power. They do not cause fatigue. Relics usually have a limited use, as well as a recharge condition. For example, there is the Eye of Odin. It contains one charge. It grants a glimpse into a chosen realm. To recharge it, you need to bathe the eye in the tears of a god. Then we have the Skull Beacon. It has one charge. It is a charred and crumbling skull with a dim glimmer in the sockets. It glows brightly when held. To recharge it, you need to burn it on a roaring bonfire. When it comes to rings, many magical rings may be found, but none of them should be used lightly. Adventurers can wear up to 2 rings at a time, one on each hand. For example, there is the Iron Ring. This is a dense ring, wrought from blackened iron. You gain 1 additional defense, but lose 10 speed. Then there is Silva's Ring. Delicate wooden ring entwined by sharp thorns. You gain 2 extra inventory slots, but you lose 1 vigor. There are plenty of spells to use in your adventures. Let me mention a few of them. There is Detect Magic. It detects beings or objects imbued with magic. Then you have Read Mind. You can hear the surface thoughts of nearby creatures, There's also slow. It slows nearby enemies. Then you have guidance. Ask the gods for guidance. They may not answer truthfully or at all. Then you have purify. Purge poison, toxic or petrify. You also have temper weapon. Imbue your weapon with magic and enhance damage to 1d12. Then there is Ring of Fire. A 10-feet burning ring surrounds yourself and allies, causing 1d8 of damage to those who enter it. You also have Inner Fire. Imbue your body with the strength of fire. You gain 1 defense and 1d6 temporary resilience. There's also Lightning Spear. Summon a crackling bolt of lightning that strikes for 1d8 of damage. And then there is Rebirth. The next time you fail a critical damage save, regain full resilience and clear 2 points of fatigue. And there are plenty more spells, this is just a small sample. Thank you for watching this part of the review. In the next part we are going to talk about the advanced rules. Okay, I just have to say, this is the best tabletop adaptation so far that I have seen when it comes to representing Dark Souls combat. And magic, of course, is also quite representative of that style of gameplay. But I am truly impressed with the way fatigue is handled, your ability to roll to carry out attacks. It becomes quite tactical. If you start attacking like a fool, with no consideration whatsoever for your bodily resources, then you're going to fail. This is all about administrating your stamina as you are using your skills, your spells, your attacks. It's all about economy of movement. So even though there are plenty of fictional elements to this role-playing game, it's still quite realistic. Thank you for watching this part of the review. If you have any comments or questions, please let me know. And thank you so much to those of you that have been supporting the channel by sending drive-thru RPG gift certificates. If anyone else wants to further support the channel, the information on how to do that will be in the description below. Once again, thank you, and see you later.